On Tuesday, RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat made some critical statements while speaking on the Vijayadashami Day. Vijayadashami Day is also the foundation day of the RSS. It's considered one of the six most important events for the RSS, and also 2025 marks 100 years of the RSS. So this was a very important speech in which he talked about wokeism, he talked about cultural Marxists, the need to vote for the right party in 2024, and also about Manipur violence. This is the first time he was speaking about Manipur violence, and he also talked about the involvement of external factors in the violence. And most importantly, he also said that on Jan 22nd, when the Ram idol gets installed in the Ram temple, the upcoming Ram temple in Ayodhya, there needs to be an atmosphere of religiosity. So Swayam Sevaks need to actually organize smaller events across the country. So important points there. I have my colleague Maria Shakil with me, and together we're going to talk about and break this down for you. Maria, as somebody, both of us have covered the BJP and RSS, and as somebody who has seen this organization in the last 9 years, I feel that Mohan Bhagwat's speech was very inclusive in the last few years. He has been quite political. He's talked about population policies, talked about Swadeshi movement, all those things.
And Mohan Bhagwat, if you remember, both of us covered that event at the Vigyan Bhavan.
Yes, he did.
Yes,
of course,
that big event where he spoke
yeah.
Extensively about it. You have covered RSS more than me, Vasudha. And ladies and gentlemen, Vasudha and I are coming to you live from the NDTV newsroom. This is our big newsroom where all the editorial calls are taken, where we interact with our colleagues, and which is the driving force of the channel. But as Vasudha was pointing out, there are several aspects of it. But Vasudha, I think the fact that this is the last Vijayadashami speech before the 2024 elections, it becomes important because there is a timeline that has been given, a date now, which was earlier spoken to about by Mr. Amit Shah.
Absolutely.
About the date on which the Tariq.
Yes.
So now that Tariq has been given, which is 22nd, is when the the Ram idol will be entering the Ram temple. And he also said that how the RSS workers should be staying away from polarization because there is a lot of surround sound around it in the run-up to elections. And on 22nd in particular, as we have been anticipating, that in the run-up to 22nd, there'll be several events that will be organized by the BJP and the RSS throughout the country. But on that particular day, let there be similar events because not everybody will be able to go to Ayodhya in the temples around. My question then to you is, because you have covered this party so closely, what makes this speech particularly important, and why do you think he got into the space of wokeism?
Yes. So I think, one thing that is bothering the RSS is also this whole movement internationally on dismantling global Hindutva. You see states like Seattle, which have actually passed laws against caste discrimination. And this is something that Atri Hosibole and Mohan Bhagwat have spoken about, that academia, not just in India, but also globally, have been working against the country. Now, of course, there are two sides to it. There are also organizations like Equality Labs, which have been talking about how caste discrimination is not limited to India. Now, that is one aspect of it. The other aspect is, of course, urban, something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks about. You have cases like NewsClick coming up. You have, Chinese funding. These allegations have also risen. So I think in that context, Mr. Bhagwat was making this very important point that there is, like you said, a lot of surround sound, and how there is a need to be careful about it. The thing that I found interesting was, I think over the last 10, this was his 10th speech, right?
Yes.
So in the last 9 years, Mohan Bhagwat has made an attempt to slowly become like really apolitical. Now, if you look at his speeches, they are largely not just directed towards Swayam Sevaks, but also towards the society. So it's like this whole principle ki Sangh hi Samaj hai ya Samaj hi Sangh hai, right? Like, that seems to be that
and more
ideal.
of a direction that is being given.
Exactly.
And RSS is not a body only of a particular group, that it has a vision for India as a whole.
Absolutely.
And if you remember, there was that outreach which happened to the prominent Muslims.
Absolutely.
Which included S.Y. Qureshi and the former Lieutenant Governor Syed Siddiqui, among others. So the messaging has been about what RSS thinks about various events.
Yes.
What RSS thinks about the minority population, what RSS thinks about cultural connotations, because it has been saying that this is a cultural
organization. In that context,
Yes.
Mary, I think the most important intervention is also in the space of caste. Because
Yes.
Mohan Bhagwat has been unapologetic about this. He's been saying that there has been caste discrimination in this country. People have suffered, and it, अगर बहुत सालों तक उनको reservation मिल भी जाएगा, तो it will be, one way of justice. So he has been very sure of this, and he has had detractors within his own community, but he has been very strong-willed about his opposition to caste. And even in yesterday's speech,
Yes.
like you and I were discussing, he did talk about how it is actually shameful that many communities don't actually get residential spaces in other localities, and that is something he talked about. The Prime Minister, you were telling me, also
yes,
spoke
the Prime
about caste
Minister,
yesterday.
while speaking at Dwarka Ramleela, spoke about caste again. I think the BJP and the RSS understands what this caste census, which has been done by Bihar, the ramifications of it can be in other states. Remember, the Congress Working Committee has already passed a resolution in every state that they will be voted to power, there will be a caste census. Although interestingly and historically, Vasudha, Congress has been on the margins of the OBC.
Right. Yes.
I mean, OBC haven't been the centerpiece of Congress's politics. It has been upper caste, Dalits, and the Muslims.
Yes.
So now the Congress is trying to look at the OBC card. On the other hand, if we look at the politics of the BJP per se, since 2014, the new BJP that we keep talking about, the Modi-Shah BJP, there has been walking the talk on the OBC aspect.
Yes, absolutely.
Prime Minister Modi has played
He is the face, of course,
he has also worn the caste identity that he comes from the OBC community on his sleeves.
Yes.
The BJP has emphasized on the fact that they have the maximum representation of the OBCs in the current cabinet.
Absolutely.
In terms of also the chief ministers of various states, their number of OBCs. So when it comes to the OBC appeasement, they have done so more without doing the OBC OBC census.
Yes.
So the point being made by Mohan Bhagwat, and as you said rightly about that divisiveness aspect of it, that in several localities, the homes are not being given. So people do not get a house on rent in another locality is an important word here, because the same pitch of divisiveness because of caste community has been made by the Prime Minister also yesterday.
Right, absolutely. And at least with regard to caste, BJP has also been using religious symbolism to work around this aspect of caste and tell the Hindu community also that this is not done. For instance, I had covered this thing about VHP writing to all Ramleela committees in Delhi and saying that you need to do a Valmiki Puja before any sort of program starts. So that is also one way of telling the community that, we revere the gods that you place very high.
Yes.
And even in the Ram temple in Ayodhya, there's also in the same complex the Valmiki temple.
There's a Valmiki,
right?
yes.
So I think the BJP understands that religious symbolism is very important to people in this country, regardless of what caste they come from. And it really, not just for optics, but at least in terms of representation, which is something that we've been talking about, is like even the Ram Temple Trust has somebody from the Dalit community. So I think that is something that they strongly harp on.
Yes, and bringing and emphasizing on the point that has been made in the context of Manipur now, Vasudha.
Yes.
Because what we have seen, because I traveled to Manipur,
Yes.
I was in Imphal, and also I went to Churachandpur.
But do you agree with Mohan Bhagwat's statement that he's actually hinting at, we all felt that, at one point, maybe the RSS will support the Meiteis because they are largely Hindus. But you know what Mohan Bhagwat said yesterday, and also Dattatreya Hosapole said some days ago, it is very clear that the RSS is trying to be completely inclusive in this, very careful in this, and make sure that there is no divisive element in any of their speeches. And they said that the Meiteis and Kugis are fighting, and these are people who have been living together for many years now. Who are these external factors who are trying to escalate violence? He spoke about Amit Shah's visit there, and that's another thing that I wanted to come at, how this is also reaffirmation of the RSS's approval of all good things that the government is doing.
And it's
very
also
supportive.
seen that, we keep talking about how the BJP as a political party works as an extended arm of the government of Prime Minister Modi. So when it is about, social welfareism, they have managed to communicate to the last man standing.
Absolutely.
Because they have the cadres and the booth workers. And on the same side, we realize that in the new BJP, we have seen that RSS is present, but it is not that it is constantly being seen as a dominant view or a contradictory view as it was seen during Mr. Vajpayee's tenure, the first NDA.
Absolutely.
Here is RSS, which is very much in sync with the government. And the point that you made particularly about the Home Minister becomes important, Vasudha, because what Mr. Mohan Bhagwat said was, why are the Meiteis and the Kukis who have lived together for so long in so much conflict? There's a border region, that emphasis on border region, because Myanmar border, it's very close by, and there is that sense that the current government emphasized on carrying out a particular movement against drugs.
Right.
The drug
Yes,
menace.
that is, of course.
That is one of the talking
government
points.
has been, Amit Shah also talked about it in his
Amit Shah also talked
parliament
about
speech,
it. So when we look at all these aspects, you see that RSS, BJP as a political party, Mr. Modi's government, they are all completely in cohesion.
Absolutely. And to second your point, there was one important statement that Mohan Bhagwat said that, there is a need to create a society which has people that work in sync with the administration and the government and not against it. So every bit of his speech was also addressed at not really creating any anarchy or for that matter, anything which goes against the government. So in some ways, you're saying that the government largely is doing well. So let's support it. But of course, he also made an election pitch yesterday saying that, everybody 2024 is close and, it's left to the voters, but voters need to vote for a government that believes in unity of the people. So generally, RSS is seen as increasing voter turnout, but not really seen as even saying speaking, statements they, of course, he didn't say which party to vote for, but it was clear that he's as excited about the election and also
immediate elections and also 2024.
Yes.
And when we look at the speeches, because this Vijayadashami speech is always seen as the direction speech.
Yes.
That here is RSS Supremo giving the direction not only to the Swam Sevaks, but also to the society at large who have been associated with the RSS for so long. There is that inclusivity, as you talked about, Vasudha, and as we wrap up this discussion, my final point to you, from Mr. Vajpayee's RSS to now, what is the difference that you have seen?
I just feel Mohan Bhagwat by himself is also quite a strong figure because he's been trying to meet a lot of people from different backgrounds. And some days back, he actually talked about Periyar and he said, Periyar ne bhi to Hinduon ke liye kaam kiya tha. I was stunned because, Dravidian philosophy and Hindutva don't really, but then he also went to Abhivardhan's he paid tribute. So I think Mr. Bhagwat is also a very strong personality. In the last 9 years, he has issued a lot of political statements in support for Article 370, the abrogation, or for that matter, CAA, or for that matter, he's asked for a population policy. But then he nuanced it, right? He said that he asked for a strong population policy in one of the Vijayadashami speeches, but then he went back and said that there is also a need to check the demographic changes and conversions and all that. So in some ways, he's open to making changes in his policy, and towards, as he, as the government also comes to the peak, he is making it clear that his speeches are largely inclusive, not seen as political, and
more cultural.
And this aspect of division is really underplayed. Yes. That is my sense. What is your sense?
Yes, I agree with you. Because I remember that Vigyan Bhavan event very distinctly, where you had diplomats present, the who's who of society present, including ministers, MPs, all of them were present. That was the first almost like coming of age of RSS event,
exactly.
Where the RSS Supremo was addressing Delhi gathering. And in the last few years, we have seen that emphasis of interactions with diplomats, interactions with foreign dignitaries, because that messaging has to go. What is this political party? Also the BJP. Mr. Nadda is seen as that face who's communicating what BJP believes in to the world.
Yes,
it's also because BJP today is the largest political party in the world, and if RSS is the ideologue or ideological fountainhead, then certainly they have to become clear as well. And the presence of Shankar Mahadevan.
Yes, let's talk about that. Yeah, exactly. And he actually spoke a lot of good things about the RSS, and not just Shankar Mahadevan. That was quite interesting. But they also had Santosh Yadav last year. The mountaineer, and that also agreed with this whole female pitch. So I think this is...
And before that, the entire controversy around Pranab Mukherjee's visit.
Yeah, that was at the end of the Sanskrit Shabbat. So it's interesting how, you're right, that there is a transformation, not just in the optics of it, but also in their outreach and also in their policies and the way they convey their ideas. And I think that is what was reflected in Mohan Bhagwat's speech yesterday. So that was our live on Mohan Bhagwat's speech yesterday and the implications of it for 2024. This is me, Vasudha Gopal, and my colleague Maria Shakil signing off. Thank you.
And Vasudha and I will continue this conversation over a number of issues every week. So keep tuning in and keep signing in on NDTV for this special broadcast.
Thank you. Bye.